Hello lovelies, welcome back. It's part 2 in the series of making of a seashell silicone mermaid top. So today we're going to mix some silicone and pour it into our mold. Today I'm using Smooth On brand EcoFlex Dragon Skin 0020 silicone. It's translucent. I have my plaster mold that we made in the last video. I've got some mica powder to tint my silicone, a couple of cups to mix that in, a spatula, and a scale so that I can measure it out properly. It's 1-to-1 ratio here. And then to the side I've got a little mold that I've been working on for resin, and that's what I pour my excess silicone in. I use that same technique when I am doing resin. I will always have like an extra mold to the side that I don't plan on using, but I have it there just in case I need it because I really don't like to waste resin or silicone in any way. It's a very expensive product and waste is just a terrible thing. And I did have to get a second spatula. I remembered that part A and part B have to be stirred before you use them. I think you can see that on the lid. It's on both lids in big writing, stir well before using. So I had to have a separate spatula for part A and B so that you're not mixing those two in their containers. That's not good. So don't do that. And this stuff is very thick, so I would make sure that your stirring apparatus is extremely stiff and hard so that it doesn't buckle under pressure. That's never a good thing. And then also, I learned from this, I would definitely check the length of your stir stick because these weren't quite long enough, and I had to be very careful to not get it all over me and the container because the stick just barely stuck out over the top. So as I was stirring, it was just hard for me to keep a hold of the stick or the spatula and not make a huge mess. Which I did make a mess here and there, but it wasn't terrible. Not the end of the world. So make sure you stir both parts really well. I also like to keep a piece of like wax paper or a paper towel or something nearby to clean up messes and lay spatulas on when needed. Right now I'm just sticking them in the cups where I'm going to be mixing the parts. So I have the little scale here and I'm going to attempt to, since I only have one mold right now and I really want to make a set of matching seashells, I'm going to try to measure out my silicone and also my mica powder so that I can recreate the same color and translucent, the same opaqueness, whatever it is, in both seashells that I'm going to be making. So hopefully this will work. So I would just get your little scale, put your cup on there, and then turn your scale on, and then you're going to pour equal parts of both mixtures. And for this, I was really not sure how much silicone my mold would hold. So I just kind of did my best guess, and that's why I keep the mold next to me for excess silicone. I can just pour that in there and it's not going to be wasted. So with this mold and the amount of clay that I use, which I'm not sure if there's like a smarter way, maybe you can pour water in your mold and then pour that into a measuring cup and kind of see how much liquid the mold holds. That would be maybe an option for that. But I just kind of did my best guess based on how much resin work I've done in the past, and guessing on that, I went with 140 grams total, which would be about 70 grams of part A and B. And I also used about 20 grams of the blue mica powder and maybe 10 grams of the silver mica powder. I'll leave links below in the description for all of the products that I use. Don't worry about that. And it was pretty seemed pretty simple. This is my first time using this product and it went really well. So for the mica powder, I have done a little bit of research and I've read that if you add too much, it will hinder your silicones curing properly. So you don't want to put a lot in there. So I'm just measuring out a little bit at a time and I'm mixing that in with one of the parts that before I mix them together, because that's recommended on the package that you mix it with, I think it's part B, and you'll mix the color in before you start mixing both together. So I didn't want to add too much, so I'll be adding a little bit and mixing that up and then adding a little bit more just to make sure I'm getting the color and opaqueness that I'm desiring. I have my handy little dental tool I'm about to pick up. That thing is wonderful for these mica powders. It is got a little scoop on it, just makes it great. You don't want to try to pour this stuff, it will make a huge mess. It's just like, it's not a good idea, so don't do that. So you're just going to mix that into one part of it and keep going. It's starting to look good, girlfriend. Oh, ooh, I like that color. Yeah. Oh man, that's going to match my silicone tail so beautifully. I cannot wait to see what this looks like when it comes out of the mold. Ah, I don't know if you guys are as excited as me, but if you're not, you need to get that way because this stuff is so fun to work with. It's pretty versatile product and it's kind of idiot proof if you ask me because I was able to do it. So anybody can do it. Don't be scared. Just try it. Don't be scared. Now I did speed this up. This video, I think, and I just said, don't try to pour it. And then I'm like, oh wait, no, don't do that. See, you get too much. And then you got to take some out. It's just not a good idea. Don't do what I did, guys. Learn from my mistakes. Crazy lady. She can't even get it together, girlfriend. Come on. Come on. Okay, so I guess it was closer to, I'm going to have to, if you want to know exact amounts, I can leave those in the comments below if you have questions, but obviously my memory does not serve me correctly, and I may have added more mica powder than I technically told you guys. My scale was set to grams, I do know that much, but it just looked like I added zero point 0.8 silver to this mixture. And I think I told you guys that I only added 10 to begin with, so I'm pretty sure I lied to you. And I didn't mean to, I swear. I didn't mean to lie. But anyways, I digress. Okay, so now I'm adding both parts together in the same cup. And I never really follow all the rules exactly. With resin, you're supposed to like measure them out in two separate cups and then put them in another cup and mix them together. I'm not that wasteful, so I think as long as you really scrape the sides, which I'm a cake maker and an icing maker, and I scrape the sides of that bowl like there's no tomorrow. So I just use those same techniques when I'm doing resin and when I'm doing silicone now. So I scrape my spatula, I scrape the sides of the cup, and I scrape the bottom, and that's how I stir, constantly scraping all of the outer edges. And I do know that you don't want to mix your silicone too much, so you just want to stir for like 2 to 3 minutes tops, and then I think you're going to be ready to pour. And you want to pour, it says pour from the lowest part of your mold and then allow your silicone to spread out to the rest of the parts of your mold. So that's what I'm trying to do here. I did find out that I don't think my mold is as level as I thought it was. So I did have a little bit of some spillage here and there, but it's not the end of the world, and it is something that can easily be corrected. And I think I did pretty good on measuring how much silicone this mold would hold. There wasn't a ton of leftover, so that made me pretty happy. I'm just kind of pushing the silicone up into the corners. I wanted to make sure that I didn't overfill it too much, but I didn't want to underfill it. And, you know, this is the first time, so it's an experiment always when you're learning a new technique or a new craft or a new hobby. You just got to do it until you learn. And I'm so appreciative that you guys are here learning with me. I hope you love this craft as much as I do. So after you get the mold full, I did have a tiny bit left over, so I'm just going to pop that over into this resin mold I've been making with excess silicone. This is a very, very soft, stretchy silicone, so I would not recommend dragon skin for mold making per se. But I did only add a tiny bit in here, and I think it'll be okay, because typically I will use a Luminite mold making stuff because it's readily available at Hobby Lobby when I need it. So the next thing that I'll do is probably spend entirely too much time trying to level out this seashell mold. But, you know, if you have some spillage like I did, it's not the end of the world. You can trim that later. And this silicone is different from resin in that you don't really have to worry about bubbles or anything for the most part. With resin, you do get a lot of bubbles and you need a heat gun to get those out, but I did not have any issues with the silicone doing that, especially the dragon skin. It's extremely, I don't know, it just worked really well, I think. It's very, very stretchy, and you'll see that when we take it out. But I'm going to put some links in the description below, guys, for all the stuff that I used in this series. And the next series will be us making a second seashell mold so that we can make two at the same time. But once this is, once I stop messing with this thing and go to sleep, we'll be able to see what it looks like when it comes out of the mold. Seriously, lady, you need to stop. Just leave it alone. Walk away, let it go. Yeah, just leave it alone. Is anybody else a perfectionist like me? Like, I'm my worst critic. I am always the hardest on my finished products, but I'm trying to work on that as of late. So, what I have learned with resin is that when you're making two identical products, you really do need to make them at the same time, which leads me to the reason why we really need to make two seashell molds. If you're going to be coloring and tinting silicone, I feel that it is definitely best to do them at the same time so that you are guaranteed to get a more cohesive look and a matched pair, because it never works out with resin. Oh my God, finally, we get to take this thing out. So you can see the little parts that spilled over are not a big deal. You just cut those off with some scissors and then you just forget about it like it never even happened. But I did notice that the back side is like super, super shiny. And then the side that came out of the mold, as you can see, is a little bit more dull. It did pick up the detail from the mold nicely, which I'm happy with. I just am curious if they need to be painted with some more silicone after this. So if you do know more about silicone than me, please leave a comment and help a sister out. Otherwise, stay tuned for the next video. Look how stretchy that stuff is. The next video where we will take this silicone seashell and we will make an identical mold for this project. And then we can make a matching set of beautiful silicone seashells. And hopefully by then I'll know a little more about what I'm doing. Thanks for watching, guys.